All right, Roger Martin here from Billings, Montana, getting a conservative view that most of us won't see. This is on Glenn Beck radio and Lauren Chen, and I thought this was very interesting. We'll make some comments as she goes along and talks about her idea of politics and policy and why they're important. But she also gets into religion and why God is important. And this is a point that I've wanted to get to for so long. So here goes.
Around policy. And it's funny because I was small government minded, but I was still in the mindset that of, oh, if government were this specific way, then society would be perfect. It happened that the way I thought government should be was small, limited, and pro-freedom, but I was still very reliant on outside forces being able to dictate how good society.
Now, there's nothing wrong with small government, limited and pro-freedom. I believe that conservative value of the Founding Fathers is fundamental. But what is not being talked about is how much responsibility for that to work, how much responsibility we need to take on ourselves as a citizenry, and we've never got there. We've been so busy scraping for a living and fighting for an existence in the corporation challenges, the financial challenges, the moral challenges, and the struggles of life, that we've never got to self-regulation enough. Here she says some more on this.
Society is. The older that I've gotten, the more I've realized that policy is, of course, important. I will never say that it's not, but at the same time, as I get older, I think that if more people were to, I guess, check themselves, their own personal lives, and for me, that's very, very largely Christianity. If we were to be more engaged with that and how we behave with our family members, our friends, strangers, all of these questions about politics, it's not that they wouldn't matter, but they would be a lot less important, right? I mean, if people, for example, had healthy family lives, then the question of child poverty would be less important, right? If people had I guess, more opportunities because they embrace their own education and the value of hard work, then things like welfare would be less of an issue. Not that they wouldn't matter.
Again, the balance somewhere in our growth, in our maturity, in our responsibility, we need to say that I am responsible for what type of life I live and what type of person I become and what I want to do with this thing called life. And that has to be fundamentally in there, and you have to own it. But also, government needs to be a partner in this and in encouraging it. They need to discourage the opposite of that, where government will take care of everything. They'll take care of your health, your food, your clothing, your shelter, your education, and you have no responsibility in that area. That is the extreme socialistic view of it, and the problem is it's so mismanaged by government and so abused by government that we become zombies, moral zombies, without a moral compass and without moral power. The opposite of that is where Christ comes in and says, okay, you're going to have to be responsible. Government is going to limit and encourage its involvement in your life in a limited way, but you're going to have to be more responsible. Well, we can't be responsible for what you do, but you're going to have to be more responsible. And so this balance where government encourages us through education, corporations, through some activity to bring out the best in us and reward us for that, has to be shifted, where government isn't so concerned with controlling everything. So maybe that won't happen until Christ comes, but that's where we need to go, and we need to set that mindset now before Christ comes.
Matter, but we wouldn't be, I guess, it wouldn't be a make or break issue. And so,
well, if you don't self-regulate, somebody has to do it for you.
Right. And Dennis Prager talks about this a lot, where if you have small government, you kind of need a big God, right? You need something to, I guess, motivate you, something that you care about, something you're passionate about. Otherwise, it's just.
Now, isn't that an interesting quote from Prager, Dennis Prager, Prager University? If you want a small government, you need a big God, because you have to be big on self-regulation and control in yourself. And you have to own it. You have to be responsible for it.
Just it's anarchy. And I think Jordan Peterson, he's not a Christian, but he's someone who is at least trying to talk about the need for self-improvement and the value of that. And people are responding to it in a big way.
I think millennials get a bad name. I think they get a bad rap. And I don't know, maybe they are all what everybody says. I haven't met them. I have met some, but I've met those same people in my generation.
Right.
I mean, that's normal. Tell me who the millennial generation is in your opinion.
In my opinion, we're well-educated. A lot of us have degrees. We're entrepreneurial, which is something that's interesting because as much as we tend towards socialism, which absolutely millennials do, we're also, I guess, more of a self-starting generation than previous generations. So it's not that we're that great, but through technology, we just have the greater means to do it.
This is the thing I can't understand about millennials, because when I got into radio, it's been 45 years, I had to go to the FCC and take a test to be able to know how to operate a transmitter. Okay, I had to take a test, then I had to go to a corporation, get a job. There were very few jobs, blah, blah, blah. You don't have to do any of that stuff now. And you don't even have to go on radio. You can do it from your own home with your own stuff. You can be heard more than any other time. You want to be a band? In my generation, you had to wait for the record scout to come to the bar that you were playing. You don't even need that anymore. How is it this generation who is more free to do things because of the internet than any other generation ever in the history of mankind is still saying, but I want more government?
Well, I think it's kind of a paradox. We're so used to this freedom because we have so much freedom, whether that's, racially in terms of gender. We're just a very free, very egalitarian generation. And I think that's almost made us complacent because we're so used to having things so great, so amazing. Not that there haven't been, I guess, economic recessions associated with our generation coming into the workforce, which there have been. But we're so used to everything going our way that we almost can't imagine a way that it's not working out. So I think, when someone my age looks at something like healthcare in the U.S., which, as much as liberals like to say Republicans or the right or whatever think the American healthcare system is currently great, I've never heard a single person on the right say, yeah, we're good, this is how it should be. But in any case, they look at something like that and think, oh, well, this is kind of not working, so let's just go for full-on socialism, right? Why not? Because they don't understand that, no, like, things can get significantly worse. This is, like, if you think this is awful, you have not seen anything.
That kills me because it's almost like you've never traveled anywhere else before in your life. When we look at our problems today, are you kidding me? The number one cause of death, 120 years ago for women was fire. They would burn to death. I mean, we don't even have that. I don't even think that's even on the top 1,000 ways to die for women today.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, people who complain about things like microaggressions or manspreading, all those things, like anytime I hear someone just mention those words, what I think of is just privilege, like definitely class privilege. If that's what you're worried about, then I'm sorry, you've had a pretty nice life. And also it's so, I mean, this is a word that's been overused, but Eurocentric. Like if that's your problems, that's such a first world problem. And it's almost kind of, it's a sign of how well we've come as a society, ironically, that now this is what we're concerned about.
Yeah, it really is. It shows how fat we are. Really, it is.
Sure.
This is crazy, but maybe we have been too complacent and too spoiled. It's got to get tougher so we appreciate it. All I know is the fight is real, the battles are real, the war is real. And whether we like it or not, we're into a real battle, whether or not we're going to keep constitutional freedoms that exist in the Bill of Rights and in the Constitution. And there's no two ways about it. And this is Roger Martin from Billings, a long time. This was from Blaze Radio. Lauren Chen. A little bit about the millennials. We have had it too well for too long, unfortunately. Older people that have been through very tough things, the Great Depression or communism or World War I or World War II, wow, a different mindset completely. Again, think about it. Don't become so complacent that we lose our freedoms and then have to fight from a very different and difficult situation to try to gain them back through bloodshed or other things. Good day. It's Roger Martin from Billings, Montana.